So a really exciting endorsement today. So Daniel, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So for all those haters out there who were like, Elizabeth Warren's the best, and I really like the way that she went after Bernie Sanders for that sexism things, well, I'm really sorry, but you're about to take a major hit. Pramila Jayapal, leading progressive congresswoman, has endorsed Bernie Sanders.
Booyah!
So I'm sorry, she must be a sexist too, going with all those Bernie bros. Oh, anyway, let's talk about this. She's one of the most prominent women of color in Congress, much to why the New York Times didn't bring her up, and is endorsing Bernie Sanders. Her choice could bolster Bernie Sanders' strength, it probably will, on the left, and give him an advantage over his opponent, Elizabeth Warren. And if you're wondering why was I bringing up Elizabeth Warren when I introduced this story, you're going to see in about half a second, or maybe a little more than half a second, couple seconds, in the closing weeks before the nominating contest on Iowa on February 3rd. Jayapal, the lead sponsor of the House Medicare for All bill, has been courted by both candidates for an endorsement. She says on Twitter, Bernie has bold passion, authenticity, and clarity that the working people across the country desperately need. Going on to say, we are building the progressive movement that will bring justice and opportunity and transform our country. And then the article, because of course, is like, well, something good happened with Bernie Sanders. We have to make sure we undermine that because Bernie Sanders. The two recently, and they're talking about Sanders and Warren, recently had a conflict over the question of whether a woman can defeat President Donald Trump. Warren said Sanders told her in a private meeting that a woman couldn't win the presidency, and to their credit, they added this comma and then finished the sentence by saying, but Sanders and his campaign have strongly denied the claim. Sanders has now secured endorsements from AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and I was talking a little before the show with Paul. It's like, Ayanna Pressley must be like, God damn it, I think I made the wrong choice.
Back to the wrong horse.
Yeah. Jayapal also confirmed that she will be the National Health Policy Chair for Sanders' campaign. So there you have it, guys. Another win for Bernie Sanders. And again, the timing is really funny because Warren and CNN, but really it's CNN. At this point, like I said before when we were talking about, what was it, Warren? It's still CNN. It's still mainstream media pushing this more than Warren's camp. So you know who was really pissed about this? CNN, because they had a whole month, I'm sure they had blocked out. We're like, okay, here we're going to call Bernie Sanders sexist. Then we're going to call him sexist over here. And then we're going to call him sexist right here.
No one will see it coming.
No one will see it coming. And this kind of threw a little wrench in those plans.
Yeah.
And then you know who was really confused was the New York Times, because then they were like, well, who else are you endorsing, Pramila Jayapal? Don't you need to endorse a second person?
Did they say that? I can
they
imagine.
They didn't. They didn't. I was making that. But it's just, just points
Paul's
to
a
the
little gullible
ridiculousness and the
sometimes.
spinelessness of once again, the New York Times endorsing two different candidates, which is silly and ridiculous. I'm super excited about this endorsement because Pramila Jayapal is the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. She's a badass progressive who's done a lot of really, really great work in that regard. So it's a huge endorsement. And like Daniel said, especially in the face of these accusations around sexism, and even like, whiteism, I guess, on Bernie's side, like being so, everybody
Race
being
issues.
so, race issues and that sort of thing. I think it's solid that this endorsement has come out, and I think it is I think it's going to hurt Warren and definitely help Sanders.
Well, and I think you'll see it either completely overlooked or downplayed at every opportunity by the likes of Politico and CNN and that ilk. Because it undercuts their narrative. What Daniel was saying, oh, sexist. Oh, and by the way, sexist. Oh, I bet you didn't hear this one, sexist. So when you have someone like Pramila Jayapal and another high-profile endorsement that Bernie's gotten is AOC, both women of color, both endorsing Bernie, that
and the nurses union.
Yeah,
Bernie
exactly.
Sanders also got the nurses union, and we know that nurses are predominantly female.
Right. See, he's racked up like all of the really major, not all, but the vast majority of the really major, very progressive endorsements. And that should tell voters, hey, these things, these policy platforms that poll extremely well, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, college tuition, hey, Bernie stands for those things, and people believe he's going to work for those things. He has a record of doing it. He's getting all these endorsements. And for those reasons, you're not going to hear about it in the mainstream press. It's just all of these. It just runs counter to their, oh, he's a sexist. He's not, you can't win the African-American vote. He's an old white man. Blah, 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 blah. That's all we've got. What else can we do? Let's say it again. Let's say it again like it's a new idea.
Absolutely. Well, repeating whatever you want to repeat like that creates truth, right? That's one of the things that Trump is really good at. You repeat something regardless of how true it actually is, and it becomes truth. But one of the things that Jayapal did point out in her endorsement of Bernie was Bernie's record, and that was one of the main things she pointed to as a reason for endorsing Bernie. So, it's all there on videotape. It's all there in transcript. We have a lot of records of who's been on the right side of history all this time. And it is Bernie Sanders, and it is very clear to the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. And it is very clear in this endorsement by Pramila Jayapal.